The next question is from Brandon Spratt. He's a senior and he's a political science major, and his question is, what have the Democrats done since the 2006 midterm elections to prove to the American people we are ready to lead the country in another direction?
Well, I think I answered some of that in the speech. The healthcare piece, the college student piece, the minimum wages, the ethics bill. I don't think we talked. I guess we talked briefly about the ethics bill, which really is a change in what Congress can expect. So there really have been some concrete pieces of legislation that have passed. Of course, they don't get written up because the press doesn't like to do anything that's positive, heaven forbid. But we have made a difference. And I think, the force of the president to change the dialogue on Iraq, even though we haven't been able yet to change the course, has also made a difference. And now we just need a Democratic president to make good on our promises, because it turns out that the Republicans have fundamentally taken a decision that they don't want to do anything so they can blame us for doing nothing in Congress. They're holding up the works, and then they're going to blame us for it in the election. I don't think the American people are going to go with that.
Next question is from Joseph K. The freshman is a journalism major, and he wants to know, what is the Democratic plan for victory in 2008?
Well, the Democratic plan for victory has a lot to do with you. It's to get out and knock on virtually every door in America, in every state in America. There is no state that we don't think we can compete in. Again, we've won in all kinds of states like Mississippi and Alabama, even Utah. I'm proud of talking about my cousin, who's a 40-year-old, 45-year-old, who is a Democratic Irish Catholic, which makes him a triple minority in Utah. And he is now the mayor of Salt Lake County, which has a 28% Democratic performance. You can win anywhere if you're willing to work hard. There's something, my favorite saying in life, that comes from Louis Pasteur, who is, some of you know, especially pre-med people, who is a great scientist. And he once said, "The chance favors the prepared mind." Others have said this too. In life, and especially in politics, you can't know what's going to happen. You can't know the good luck you're going to have and the bad luck you're going to have. But you can prepare yourself for any eventuality. When I decided to put staff and pay for it in every single state in the country, that met with a lot of consternation in Washington, because they somehow think that if you keep doing the same thing that you've been doing to help you lose, that suddenly you'll win one day. It doesn't work that way. Chance favors the prepared mind means that you can't tell what's going to happen. If you're prepared to take advantage of what might happen, you'll have a lot better chance than somebody else. I got given a hard time by a reporter not too long ago for having staff in Alaska, one of the most Republican states in the country. It doesn't look so dumb now that the senior senator faces indictment in Alaska for doing all kinds of crooked things. Now we have a party that really works in Alaska, a voter file that's as good as anybody else's in America, and a chance to win a seat, even in the conservative place. Because even conservatives don't like corruption. And corruption is a big issue in this next election. It's one of the things that Republicans seem not to mind and not to learn a lot about. So our plan for winning the election is to be everywhere and knock on every door and talk to people respectfully, including those people who disagree with us, about why we would like to represent them and why we think we'd be much better at governing the country than we've seen in the last 7 years.
The next question is actually from a future college Democrat. He's a senior in high school here. His name is John Salvin. His question is, do you think the animosity between the candidates in the primary will affect their electability in the general election?
Well, let me not speak about the Republicans, because I'm not following the Republican primary very much, and I'm certainly not qualified. I don't qualify as an expert in Republican politics. As far as the Democrats, so far, no. There is always animosity. I honestly, as a participant, I think the last 2004 campaign was much worse than this one. There will be disagreements over who voted for what, when, and all that kind of stuff, and that's a legitimate disagreement. That's what debate is about, what you think about different issues. That's fine. Attacking each other's characters is something that I am not going to put up with. But I haven't seen them really do that head on. There's a little of this and a little of that. Don't forget, though, that journalists fan the flames. That what is actually said is not nearly as bad as what it looks like it said if you read the newspaper account the next day. That's just a fact. I mean, I can't even tell you this. I went to a big conference and said something saying that. My press people are here, they won't be happy if I put it back in the paper. But you know, you say stuff and the headline the next day doesn't resemble anything that you said. So a lot of what you're reading about is kind of a hyped up version of what people are really seeing. And even cable does it. They'll click out a little piece of what the candidate said, and then one of the candidates will go on and say, well, I didn't really say that. I said, this, and then when you hear the whole thing, it's pretty reasonable. So the tension between the candidates, of course, is there. The stakes are enormous, but the level of ugliness is not what you think, and it's really nothing that alarms me at all. Unless they start really doing a hatchet job on each other's character, then I'm going to do something about it. But right now, I don't have any concern at all.
The next question is from Chris Walker. He's a senior, he's a political science major. And his question is, what advice can you give young people interested in a career in politics?
First of all, please do it. Run for office. If you don't want to run for office, you've got to do something to help them. Somebody who you like. You have to do something to help somebody who you may like. Here's why. It goes back to what I said earlier. You have really got to participate in the political system. I know some people think, oh, politics is so rough, it's so mean, they're all crooks anyway, and all that kind of stuff. The fact is, what politics is a substitute for war. There has not always been a bloodless transfer of power. That is a relatively recent development in Western civilization, or in any civilization. That is relatively recent development in the last few hundred years. Politics is a substitute for resource allocation by armed force. So if you don't want resource allocation by armed force, then you owe it to yourself to participate in some way in the political system, because that is a far better alternative for anybody. So that's why I would be involved in politics. Now, what advice would I give you? I advise you to get involved with a campaign very early. Any campaign. Honestly, you can go into a presidential campaign and learn a lot. In fact, where's Megan? The director of the party was actually my Southeast Wisconsin coordinator in 2004. 4 years later, she was executive director of the Wisconsin party. It happens fast in politics because it is backbreaking, and you burn yourself out by 30, and you get ahead in a big hurry. Or run for local office. There is not anyone in this room, unless you're under 18 years old, that can do that, and 18-year-olds and 19-year-olds have been elected to local offices. And local politics is where it's at. If you don't want to run and work in a presidential election, you want a lot of responsibility early, go to work for somebody who's running for the state assembly, for the county executive. Why? Because those folks don't get a whole ton of people drawn into it. They don't have national campaigns and high profile. So you're going to get a lot of responsibility very, very early on. You may end up running somebody's campaign for the assembly when you're a college student. There's a guy here named Mike Tate who ran right over there, who ran my campaign as a student at the University of Wisconsin. He ran my campaign in the state of Wisconsin. Why? Because he loved politics, and when he was in college, he got involved in a whole lot of other campaigns, and by the time I came out, he was a pretty experienced guy and knew what he was doing. So it's a very rapid path upward, whether you're in elective office or whether you're in the organizational part of it. And the organizational part of it can often lead to the elective part. I started out in organizational politics. I was drafted as the county chairman in my county in Vermont. Ended up in elective politics, and now I'm back in organizational politics. And if you have no interest and you're a biochemistry major, you're going to med school, you don't have a minute to yourself, at least you got to take. Voting is not enough. You get a D for voting. That's great. It's barely passive. You've got to do something, whether it's write a small check or whether it's knock on people's doors and what small time you have, whether it's talk to people about policies that you know something about, that they need to know something about when they're running for office. But you have to be involved. Every single person has to be involved and do more than just vote.